My Inventions, the Autobiography of Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla was a Serbian-American inventor, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, and futurist. He was born in 1856. He gave the world a system of alternating current, i.e., AC, which is the base of electricity distribution today. Tesla made considerable inventions such as induction motor, Tesla Coil, wireless energy transmission, and remote control. His work is also a FEM for partnership with the rivalry and the Westinghouse with Thomas Edison. Tesla from 300 in his life filed more patents, but many of their discoveries remained unrecognized. His vision was of wireless communication and free energy. It is believed that he had also made a claim to make a death ray. The government has classified Tesla's work was not just a science fiction that inspires the psychist even today. The book was published in 6 parts in Electrical Experimental magazine in 1919. Tesla directs and wants about her childhood, education, inventions, experience, and personal life written in the way. Every chapter has a spatial event or life fresh focus. This book shows how Tesla thought. His memory system was photographic and how his brain became the complete machine design in the same moment. So let's try to understand this book by line. Development of human beings tips on inventions. This is the most instant result of its creative mind. The final goal of the event is to control the mind on the physical world, and the powers of the nature as per human needs to be brought to work. This is a tough job for the inventor that often people do not understand and do not get rewards on their work. But the inventor is happy to use his ideas and know how he is one of the special people without having to lose this stroll against the human race nature. I've felt so much of the joy that my life was just like a cast and exercise for several years. People say I am very hard-working. Perhaps the right says if it's also possible to think as I put almost every week in the same time. But if the work means doing some of the spatial work in a fixed time, I can be the biggest lazy. When any work is forced, it has to give life energy force. I've never given the prize. My growth took place from my thinking. In this article series, which is written together with the editors of Electrical Experimental magazine and for mainly young readers, I am trying to give a connected and honest account of my work. I don't have to think about some of my childhood's moments and events that were important to build my career. Our beginners are just instant. Imagination has raw signals. As we grow, regeneration is strong and we become more blunt and systematic. But in the early childhood, he may have deep effects on the impulses, whether immediately created something. Now I think I could give the world even more valuable if I had understood and narrated instead of pressing them. But I'm so long, I didn't know I'm an inventor until I became adult. It was quite resonance. First, I was a brother who was very extraordinary gifted, a person with a rare mind that science could not be expelled to date. Her early death broke my parents. We had a horse that gave a close friend. It was a tremendous Arabian breed horse that was almost as intelligent as human and loved by the whole family. Once he had saved my sin. An urgent work to Papa in a winter night. The horse was afraid and ran when he was going from the infested mountains. Papa fell loudly on the ground. The horse himself came home to the blood, but as soon as everyone found out, immediately ran back, and when the search party went a little further, Papa got from them. The horses were climbed back to the hash. They didn't remember that they were lying for hours in the snow. The same horse rejuvenated my brother's injury to his death. I saw this whole scene with my eyes. Whether 56 years have passed, but in my memory that image is fresh today. Heard in front of the memories of intelligence, my work seemed useless. Whatever I do, Mummy reminds Papa as much as possible. So I grew up without confidence. But I didn't ever understand people. If I wake up with an incident that I remember today. One day some eldermen were going from the street where I was playing with other children. The oldest and rich man was giving every child a silver coin. When he came to me, suddenly stopped and slept in my eyes. I see in his eyes, hand to take enhanced coins. But he said, I will not find anything. You are very fast. People about me told a fun story. I had 2 aunts. Both faces were bad, and the 2 large teeth of one penetrated into the screen like the teeth of elephant whenever he did me. I was most afraid of their throat. Once the mummy was in hand, he asked who is beautiful in both. I see both faces carefully. Then the point is less than the second. And another that I did to my brother that I tried to I only have the dabak. I wanted to become an engineer, but my sinna did not move at all in his judgment. He was the son of a man who was in the army of Napoleon, and together with his brother was a professor of maths at a large school. Both had taken military training, but the strange thing that later he became the priest and earned a considerable name in this field. My sins were read too much. There were a kind of natural journeys. The grandchildren were also. The writer also, and the people said that their spikes were like Abraham. Santa Clara was powerful. His memory was tremendous. He spoke of a large text recall of many different language. He often said in fun that if some old classics were lost, then he could write them back. The style of his writing was very much liked. His writing was short, straight, and sharp. His words always seemed like uniques and others. He had 2 exams. Our house was a working man. He was the name of Maine and he was a victim of vortex. One day he was cutting wood. As soon as he lifted up the axe, my sins stand near they seemed to be quite stressful. He said not to kill the Lord where he sees. Hit there were to kill. Once the papa went to horse guard with a friend. His friend rubbed his expensive fur coat with the wheels of the cart. Papa handles his coat immediately. You are spoiling my tire. He had a strange habit. He kept talking to himself, sometimes speaking like someone is irritating and changing the tone of the voice. If one listens remotely, thinks that many people in the room are talking about the meeting. If there's a quality of inventing any inside me, his credit goes to my mother. But the training that my Sina gave was done quite much. Every day there was some mental exercise, just as one of the others dots. Finding a reduction in something, speaking with a large sensations recall, or swelling in math's tough questions mind. These subs were rounded up making memory and logic strong and paving special critical thinking. It was very helpful for my growth. My mother was a very old and inventor family. His sinners and their grandfather had created many utilitarian tools that come home and farming work. My mother was a truly great woman. They had skill, courage, and profession. He saw and handled many storms of life. When he was just 16 years old, a degenerative disease spread throughout the area. His papa's last prayers went to a patient. My mother Akeley went to the help of a neighboring family when she was not a sinner. That made it a digestion. The 5 men of that family died one after one. My mother washed them all, dressed and finalized by placing flowers as portrayed prepared for farewell. For a Christian barely when his sin came back. My mother was a top-level inventor. If his contact is from the modern world, he will do a great job. He created his own tools, created the design of the fabric, and even spin the thread himself. He put seeds, grow plants, and separate fibers from them. He worked from the morning to night. Most of our home clothes and accessories were made of their own hands. Even when he was above 60, his fingers were so sharp he had tied 3 knots in an eyelash. My lie was another even instant regeneration of awakening. When I was short, I was a strange problard. I had a sudden image, sometimes with strong light flashes. This image was deleted my virtual visuals and interfered in my thinking and executions. This image was of things that I saw wacky. No imagery. When a word is spoken in front of me, the image of the object came so clear in my mind that I did not understand that what I see is real or not. I had a lot of trouble and I had an interest. I asked many experts of psychology and physiology, but no one gave its proper expulsion. Perhaps this was the problem unique, but I felt that I was already worthy of it because my brother had something like this. I created a theory. I think this image was the result of the retina paying reflex action from brain. When there was a lot of excitation in the brain, it was not hallucinations like occurs in a sick or distort mind. Because I was normal in everything else. As if I have seen any of the funnels or any such disturbing scenes. In the evening, the sea comes in front of my eyes with so much claimability that no matter what to try was done. Sometimes the image was fixed in the air. I tried to remove it by hand, but he stays there. If my expression is correct, the image of any thought in the future can be shown on the screen. This technology will transform the entire human society. The whole belief that one day it will be possible, and I have taken a lot of minds on this stage. In order to get rid of these destructing images, I put my focus on something else seen. I found a relief for a while, but I always had to think new images. After a short time I thought I used all the images I had. As my mental reel is over, I just saw the same things around my home, so the options were also limited. When I repeatedly exorcist the mantle, the trick also fails log, and then I started thinking out of the little world as I saw. Then I started looking for new scenes. Initially she was blurry and unclear and she disappeared when I focused on them. But slowly I found them stable. His clarity began to grow and he became solid like real things. I soon understood that the most sequence I get when I get in my vision, in a way. See new sins. So I started traveling in mind. Every night, sometimes even in the day lonely, I've got my journey out. The new city, sees the new country, stays there, meets people, friendships. Whether it's true that people were as real and important for me as much as real life ones and their impact was. I did it all regularly until I got 17 years old. After that my thinking became serious to the inventions. Then I was pleased to see that I could make the imagery to anything. I didn't need any model, drawing, or inspiration. I see everything like real in my mind could. Without knowing, I went to a new method that was a different way to make my ideas real. It was absolutely opposite of the traditional experiential method, and I think it was too fast and effective. When one starts creating a device on a raw idea, it is born in the faults and details of the machine. As he fixes him, his concentration begins to be weak and he forgets his core concept. Result meets, but quality gets compromised. My way is different. I immediately start working. When I have an idea, I immediately start making it in my imagery. I change its structure, improve it, and drive that machine in your mind. For me, it doesn't matter if I'm just running my turbine into thinking or testing in workshop. I feel even if it is in balance. No matter, the result is both in place. In this way, I can quickly develop an idea without touching anything and reflect. I don't make it in real form unless I have every possible improvement in the event and there is no lack of I. Always my device works just like I thought and the expiration is exactly what I plan. In the last 20 years, it did not happen that the result is different. Why will it be different? Engineering, whether electrical or mechanical, always gives definite results. Difficult to ever, it is subject that the result of not previous data. Those who immediately take a raw idea into practice just waste energy, money, and time. I believe this. There was also another advantage of my essential relief. Frequent brainstorming increased my awareness power and I found an instant truth. I noticed that I had real scenes appeared in some peculiarities before I saw the images, and every time I wanted to find the real source of that image. After a short time, this process became automatic and I began to be easier to add both costs and effects. Then I was surprised when I understood that every thought comes from an impression out of me. That's not only my action. After a short time I got clean exactly as I'm a machine that reacts on the signals of the senses and thinks and works accordingly. The result was the tail automatics idea that has yet been done in just half incomplete ways. But it will definitely come to the real potential future. I have been planning a self-control machine for years that would seem to be a little more understandable and would take revolution in many commercial and industrial areas. I had removed an image from my eyes for the first time when I was 12 years old. But the flashes of light that I told I never had control. Probably it was my most trendy and understood experience. It was often when I was in a disturbing resolution or when I felt a lot of anxiety. Many times I saw my surrounding air one jagged is filled with flames of fire. Not less with their intensity time but increased and almost peaked when I was 25 years old. In 1883 when I was in Paris, a famous French manufacturer called me on a shooting trip. I was quite off in the factory from time and fresh air had a very good effect on me. When I came back to the city at night, I felt like I got fire in my mind. I felt a small sun glowing inside my mind. Overnight, I kept cold water compressors on my head. Finally, she flushes gradually reduced, but it took 3 weeks to finish. When the second time I was rewritten, I said loudly, not exactly. These glossy things still look occasionally, just as a new idea comes out that shows new positivity. But now it doesn't seem to be extinguishing as it is now very low. When I close my eyes, firstly a dark and perfect beans look blue background, just as a clear night sky with no stars. After a few seconds it gets the background alive. A lot of glowing green flexes that occur in multiple layers and grow on my side. Then in the right side there is a beautiful pattern that consists of parallel lines of two systems that are crossing each other. There are more colors but yellow, green, and gold. This picture gently moves the left side into the field of my eye and disappears in about 10 seconds. After that, a boring and inactive gray color background is left sooner in the sea of wavy clouds, as it is trying to make a live shape. It's strange that I can't make any shape in this gray background as long as it doesn't come to the second stage. The images of people or things come in front of my eyes a little before bedtime. When I see them I know that now I'm going to the unconscious side. If the images do not come or refuse to come, it means that nighttime sleep will not come. How big was the role of imagery in childhood? I understood from another strange experience can. Like the rest of the children I liked to jump and I had become a strong desire to fly in the air. Sometimes there was a strong wind from the mountains in which oxygen was filled and that time my body looked so light as cork. Then I jump and float until the long time in the air. This feeling was very fun and I feel very bad after I knew it was just my illusion. At that time, I used a lot of strange choices and habits, some of whom I understand and some of them no. I had a tremendous hatred from the earring of women, but the outfits like bracelets seemed to be a little bit better than ever designed. I was almost like epilepsy to see pearls, but the sparkle of things with crystals or sharp edges untreated me. I did not touch the hair of other people, perhaps just when a gun put on my head. I had a fever when I saw a patient. If there was a camper anywhere in the house, I felt a lot of discomfort inside. I'm not completely free from any such reaction today. I counted steps and the soup calculates the volume of plates, coffee cups or food pieces, and they did not enjoy food. Whatever work I did, this activity again and again should be divided from 3, and if not accidentally happened, I thought I had to do again. No matter how much time it takes. My nature was weak till the age of 8 years and I changed my mind repeatedly. There was no courage in me, nor the strength of taking a strong decision. My impressions come like wave, sometimes, never too much. Both were walking in extremes. Me the desires were so powerful as a simmer of a hydra that grows more when cut. I was disturbed by the pain-filled shot of life and death, and was scared even with religious fear. I had one in superstition, and was always afraid of the monster of a ghost, witch, or darkness. Then suddenly, there was a huge change that changed my whole life direction. In all things I liked them most. My papa had a large library, and I try to read silently whenever I get the chance. They did not read me, and if they were caught, so much angry. He concealed the candle when I'm reading quietly. He said that my eyes will be spoiled, but I bring the tallow from somewhere, makes it wick and makes the candle in the tin mold. Every night I covered the hole and cracks, and I read before I started the work of the mother after sleeping. Once I found a novel, A Bad the Son of a Bad, that was a Serbian translation of a famous Hungarian writer Josica. Read this book and go to my inside so it will power and I control myself. Keep started. At the beginning my resolutions were melted like the snow of April, but after a little time I won my weakness. Then I realized a new joy. The joy of doing something from your merger. With time, this mental exercise became my habit. Initially, I had to suppress my desires, but slowly my desire and well-beings. After years of training, I got so much control over me that I could play things that ruin people. Once I came to the gambling, a bad habit that became a regeneration of tension for my parent. Playing cards was the biggest pleasure for me. My sinners lived an ideal life. Wasting time and money for them was absolutely unacceptable. My rejuvenation was strong, but my thinking was wrong. I can never leave them, but whether it is worth it, I would leave what I would like to give me more than ever. He repeatedly tempted me, but my mother was different. They understood the nature of the men and knew that the human beings could just be cured with their effort. One day I remember when I lost all my money and then playing the strong desire. My mother took a roll-off notes to me and take a bid, son. The better you lose everything as soon as possible. I know that will come out of it, and he was right. The same moment I left the habit of my gambling forever. I just regretted that the corpse is 100 times more strong. I won it. I did not just leave it, but with my heart remove this desire from the root. Gambling for me from then to today, cleansing a tooth as soon as it is. Another time came when I smoked too much to eliminate my health. Then my willpower worked, and I just wiped his desire not left. Sometimes I had a heart problem. Then I understood that all this was caused by an us and coffee in the morning. I left immediately. Though it was not easy, but I did. In this way, I stopped my bad habits and deeds and did not just save my life, but also those things that are more people sacrifice seems. I had a complete nervous breakdown after finishing the study of Polytechnic Institute and University. I felt many strange and unreliable things as long as it lasted. Music. I will speak a little bit about these peculiar experiences as it might be interesting for students from psychology and physiology, and so also because this pain-filled time was a considerable important for my brain development and subsequent work. But first of all, I need to tell about the recommendations and conditions that I know these were the first of the experiences in which could probably find some of these expressions. I had to take my attention from childhood. I had a lot of problems, but it was a hidden blessing when I think today, because it taught me how much self-observation is important to save life, even to get something. In today's time, the pressure of work has become a life risky from the hots and informations that come from everywhere. Most people are so busy in the outside world that they don't know what's going inside. The early death of millions is the same. Those who are careful also mistakenly think that imagery things are deniers and ignore real deniers. And what happens with a human being is a little more complete with the society. Just as you take the exam of the presentation movement, a strict is probably the unconstrictional you will being applied here so that alcohol can be discontinued. But the truth is that coffee, tea, togo, shivingum and other stimulants that start taking people in the shorter edge are. He is more hardy than alcohol for national health. If you see the number of people who are unfit. As I was a student, Vienna's necrologues read that is the city of coffee drinkers. So there is 67% of the deaths there. There may also be some cities where teas drink much. This tested drinks over-exit the fine fibers of the brain, then slowly sneeze. It also distort blood circulation. It should therefore reduce the use of these as the effects are gradually and silent. Topco relaxes thinking but the sharp and the strong thinking kicks. Chewing-gum is helpful for a short time but later sniffs and harms glands. And it also cries a kind of disorder. Alcohol is a good tonic in small quantities, but it becomes more than the post becomes, whether it is taken in the form of wiki or made in the body from sugar. But don't forget that all things help in nature's law. Those who are fit will survive. People who want to reform should also remember that humans always reverses. So, sometimes it's better to leave. The real thing, we need a little stimulants to work well in today's time. But we have to build control and balance in everything. I have been doing this for many years. That's why I feel young in both the body and the mind. I didn't always like abstinence, but now I'm getting his reward. In those experiences, those who say sacrifice, just in the hope that someone should speak to me. I miss a few exams. I was going to my hotel a while ago. Very cold. The ground was slippery and a taxi was not found. The half block behind me was going away another man who even wanted to go inside quickly like me. Suddenly my foot went into the air. The same moment took a flash in the mind. Nerves reacted. Muscles were contracted. I rotated 180 degrees and felt the force of the hands. Then I felt like walking, and he came to me and said, "What is your edge?" I said about 59. What if he asked? I'm talking about the cat, but a man never saw. A month ago I went to become new glasses. Doctor tested normal. He became surprised when I read the little print easily from afar. When I told that I am above 60, my mouth was open. My friends think my shirts fit exactly, but they do not know that all these clothes are made of the same table limits that were taken 35 years ago and did not change until today. My weight in this meantime did not change a pound. Funny, there is also the story I want to tell. Mr. Edison Edward H. Johnson, in winter of an evening 1885, who was the president of the Edison Illuminating Company. Mr. Bachelor Wux's manager and I went to a small space that was in front of 65 Fifth Venue where the company had offices. Someone said, "Let's take weight," and I was uttered to climb the scale. Edison took me full and said Tesla's weight is 152 pounds according to an ounce, and she gargled exactly. My weight of clothes was 142 pounds and is still the same today. I gently asked Mr. Johnson, how did Edison so accurate guess? By lightening the voice of the voice. I tell you a secret, but do not tell anyone. He worked in the slaughterhouse of a time Chicago where he weighed thousands of pigs daily. That's why my friend Chowky Ndipu explains the story of an Englishman. He had heard a joke. He heard with a man confused expression but laughed loudly after a year. I consider myself that I took even more time to understand Johnson's joke. What is my health today is just a careful plus and control the lifestyle with which is a result. In addition, I got stuck in every kind of denser problem and troubles because of my stupidity and careless nature. I saved dipping about 12 times. Once again, almost alive was boiled, and once it was a burn. I sometimes trapped in closed place, sometimes lost, and sometimes frozen in extreme cold. Nuts protect the dog from boars and forest animals. Barely big diseases passed and were very peculiar accidents. And it seems to think that today I am alive and healthy. It is not less than a miracle. But when I remember all these things, I think I was not just an accident. The work of an inventor is associated with saving life. Whether it controls a power, make the machine better, or bring new comfort and convenience, he makes our life more safe. Inventor average is more capable than human beings to protect themselves from the denser as he or she is smart occurs. If I don't have any proof that I own a lot of quality, it's pretty much the experience of my life. You can disassemble yourself if I do. You have a 2 and eggs and apples. Once I was about 14 years old, I thought scare my friends who were swimming with me. My plan was that I would smash from the bottom of a long floating structure and the other side would go out quietly. Swimming and driving was absolutely natural for me, such as for a dock. So I had full confidence that I had it. You will be able to. So I did the gym in the water and took the turn while the other side began to swim fast. I felt I went across the structure. So I came up, but my head hit a beam. Again I hit the die and swam fast until my breath began to exfoliate. Then the beam hit when the second time came up. Now, I was nervous. Then I tried the third time of full energy, but then it happened. Preventing breath was become a flasher. I'm drowning. So suddenly a light in my mind as flashed and I looked clear above the structure. I either saw or guessed that there is a small space between the water surface and the above boards. My sense was almost, but I was floated. Take your mouth to the bots and take a little air. But there was a water spray that I missed the almost. I have been in a dream like this process repeatedly, as long as my heart was very fast. Slightly cooled and I came into control. After that I made several unassumed dives as the direction of the infection was gone. But in the last I came out of the trap. So far my friends left me and were looking for my dead body. That year's bathing season worsened because of my stupidity. But I forgot it all. And just 2 years later I trapped in even bigger trouble. The city had a large flour mill in front of which there was a dam built over the river. Usually the water level was just 2 thin inches above the dam and there was a normal spot to swim, and I often did. One day I went alone to enjoy, for as always did. But when I was a little away from the masonry I shocked that the water level has risen and I'm carrying with a sharp stream. I tried to avoid but late. Luckily I grabbed the wall with both hands and escaped from falling. The water pressure was too much on my chest and I was hard to keep my head over the water. There was no one and my voice was lost in the noise of waterfall. Slowly my energy was over and I was not able to withstand that pressure. When I was to leave the almost and down the stone was falling on. Only a light-like flash came in my mind and I remembered a diagram that consists of a hydraulic principle expulsion that the pressure of the moving fluid is in accordance with the area that is exposed. Automatically, I rotated my body to the left side. As the magic happened, the pressure decreased and the force of the stream in that position became easier to handle. But the denier was still. I knew that in a while I would go down as someone could not reach the time. Whether I see takes. Today I can use both hands. But then I was left-handed and the strength was very low in the right hand. So I could not turn right side. There was just one option. Gradually push your body to the edge of the dam. I had to get away from the mill because the higher the current was much faster and deeper. It was a long and painful struggle and in the end I failed the almost because the wall had a depression that had to cross. I crossed it with my last energy and fainted until the edge reached. Almost complete of my left side the skin was peeled and took several weeks off the fever. It's just 2 egresses, but there's enough to show that if I don't have an inventor inside me, I don't worry. Many people ask me when and how do I start the event. I can answer my memories only. And the first attempt I remember and it was quite a daring because it had to create both a device and a method. The device was made by anyone else, but meth was my original. The thing that I had to hook in fishing near a friend tackle came, and he set a whole village. The next day all the frogs went out. I stayed alone because my quarrel was made from that boy. I never saw the real hook. The hook in my mind was an amazing thing that should have some magic-like powers. I was very sad that I could not be part of the group. In force I found a piece of soft iron wire. Thock and curse points like an end hammer between 2 stones. Bend him to the hook shape and tied to a strong string. Then I beat a road some bit put and went to the stream where the frogs were a lot. But I was not able to catch any frog and was only doing all the almost give up. Then I came to the idea that empty hooks can see the stump in front of a frog. First he was hidden but after a while his eyes emerged and reddened. He got double-sized and attacked on the hook. I immediately pulled it. Then I repeatedly used this method and it always worked. When my friends found nothing catch despite their fancy fishing set, I saw so he weaved the water quite by time I didn't tell my secret and taking fun. But in the spirit of Christmas I taught everyone. In the next summer, the frogs were worse. In my next trilogy, I first followed the same institute that later became a dominated my life, bringing nature's energy into human work. I work this in Maybox or June bugs that say in the US. Through these, there was so much that sometimes the tree's branches were broken by their weight. He was so much on the bushes that all black appeared. I have a 4 bugs ties on the cross grinding that rotates on a thin spindle and transfers that movement to a large disc that gives me considerable power. These bugs were very efficient as it was difficult to stop once they started running. He walks for hours and works as much as he heats. Everything was running fine. When a new boy came there, he was the son of a retired Austrian army officer. The boy was alive to Medgas, as she no fancy o estroso. That poor sense spoiled my whole mood. And after that day I've ever do not hand any maybug or any other insect. After that I remember I started to open my grandfather's clocks and reconnect. In the opening, I was always successful but often failed to reconnect. One day grandfather suddenly stopped me in a fairly rude way. And then for 23 years I did not touch a clock. After that I started creating a pop. It had a holo too. There was a piston and plugs of 2 hem. The piston had to press on the tree while running the gun and the tube with both hands let the back blow. The air between the plugs was compressed. The temperature rised and a plug turned out loudly. The art was that one of the holo stocks had to suck the tube with perfect taper. My gun was running quite well, but because of my activity, the house's window plus was broken and I was stopped quite in a painful way. I started making swords with furniture pieces after I remembered properly. That time I was in the influence of the Serbian national poetry and the work of his heroes inspired me. For hours, the corn stalks were cut and fought with their enemy. But this was ruined by the crops, and I was killed several times from the mother, and it was not a normal kill reel. All this was done before the age of 6 years. And there was a year of elementary school in the Smiljan village where I was born. Then we shifted from there to a small city of Gospic name. This shift for me was a disaster. My heart was broken. We have to leave our doves, chickens, goats and yards. He was so much aware that the mornings fled to the clouds and came to the formations like an army squad when they came back in the evening. That the best of today's affiliates should be Sharma. In the new house I became a prisoner and just watched strange people from the back of the window blinds. I was so shy that I faced an angry lion, but not the smart people of the city. But the biggest holler was the Sunday, when I have to go to church by wearing good clothes. There's an accident that's just thinking of making my blood curd gives. This was my second church adventure. A short time ago, I was closed for a whole night in an old chapel. The chapel was on a high hill where only once a year people went. He was also a scary experience. But it was worse than that. Our town had a rich lady. It was good to have a little show off. He always came with very makeup and heavy clothes in the church and had a long trail and attendants with him. A Sunday when I was coming under the bill while he was getting Madame out, and I jumped on his trail done. The trail plunged loudly and the sound like the new soldiers have run the gun. My sins were reddened with anger. He slapped me a little bit. He was his first and last physical decision that I feel today. After that, what was the agreement and the shame? Cannot tell the words. People ignored me exactly, as long as another incident did not fix me at the sight of the people back. A young businessman launched a fire department, purchased a new fire engine, uniforms given and training to people for the given period and service. The engine was actually a pump that walked from 16 people and was painted beautifully from the red and black color. On a day, the trial of the machine was placed and transported to the river. The whole city came to see the event. After all the spikes and functions, the command was given that the pump is turned on, but not a single drop water from the nozzle turned out. Professors and experts tried to find a problem but found no shan. When I came there, all failed. I know nothing about mechanism. There was only a little bit about air pressure, but I checked the suction hose from the institute that was in water and saw it was dubbed. I landed in river and opened the hose. Instant water began to come out and many people were also covered. Just as the Arcades were naked and ran into the straits of the Secus, shouting Eureka, the same people took me on the shoulder. I became the hero of that day. After I shifted to city, I started a 4-year course at normal school which I college were real prepared for gymnasium. This time also goes on my childhood activities, achievements, and problems. One of them was the realization. I became the best crow catcher of the country. My method was simple. I go to forest, hidden in the bushes and removes the sound of the crow. Usually used to apply a number of crosses and in a while a crochet descends into a bush near me. After that I throw a piece of cardboard to the tension divert and immediately jumps to the cove until he finds out of the bush. How many crows takes hold? But a day was something that I had to respite. I caught a beautiful pair of crosses and was going home with my friend. When we came out of the wilderness, thousands of crows surrounded us and began to scream loudly. In a while, he began to attack us from above. Only then put me on a loud blow and I fell. Then they started to attack me. I had to leave both birds and I ran to my friend who was hidden in a Kiev. There were some mechanical models in school that I liked a lot and they pulled my attention to the water turbine. I created several turbines and I enjoyed a lot by running them. How unique my life was. Tell an incident. My uncle didn't like it all and he drank me several times. Once I read a description about Niagara Falls and I thought to make a big wheel that will move from Niagara Falls. I told my uncle, I'll go to America and complete the idea. 30 years later, I saw my idea in Niagara in real, and I felt the mind how much is power mysterious. I made a lot of things, but all of them that were the best were the arbusts, a kind of bow and arrow. My arrows went so fast that the eyes disappeared. 1-inch thick pine woods plank crossed from a close range. My stomach skin had become like a crocodile and sometimes think that I can still digest the stone today. My performance of sling was not even low. If I get a chance, Hippodrome can give a bang show was. Now I mention a sling job that you might not be sure to hear. I was practicing sling while walking near river with my uncle. The sun was crumbling. Shroudfish was jumping up, and when he went into the air, his body shined on the background of a rock. It was easy for a boy to hit fish at such time, but I said before my uncle what I'm going to do. At the same detail, I said I will throw the stone from sling to fish. Her body rock on the debris and fish in 2 pieces cut. As said, my uncle see me. He became a shock of fear and swayed retrosunes, and for a few days he did not even talk to me. The rest of the attachments will forget one day, but on this point, I can make the prod fill for 1,000 years of rest. I had a new and good school when I was 10 years old. Physics department had models of classical scientific machines, both electrical and mechanical. Teachers sometimes showing extraditions I liked a lot, and that's what I liked to become a strong inspiration for inventions. I had a lot of love for math, and I always got compliments from professor to calculate early. It was because I had devised a way to think the numbers. I did not make them normal, but real life like imprints. By a surgeon level, it was a sense for me that I am writing on board or watching in mind. But the freehand drawing that took a lot of time of the course, I didn't like at all. It was strange because my family more people were experts in drawing. Perhaps I had a problem from drawing because I liked to think alone. If there are some very useless students who could not do anything, then my record in the drawing would be most useless. It was necessary to make a drawing in accordance with the school rules of that time, and my weakness could end my entire career. My sinner had to work hard enough to pass in every class. In the 2nd year of the school I was confused in a new idea. Creating continuous motion from study air pressure pumped incident was who I had previously referring. He ignited my imagery and gave me an idea of the power of vacuum. I was crazy to control this unlimited energy, but for quite a while I was smiling in the dark. At last, my hard work turned into an invention that will give me a job that nobody else had ever tried. Think a cylinder that rotates the two bearings per freely, and there is a rectangular trough around it that fits the perfectly from that cylinder. Open side of the trough closed from a partition. The inside part of the cylinder divides the TRF into two separate compartments. Both compartments are airtight and separate from each other. If the air is removed by sealing a compartment and the other is open, the cylinder will always rotate. I thought so. I made a wooden model fitted very carefully to him, and when I applied a side pump and saw that the cylinder has a slight revolving tendency, then I became happily crazy. Mechanical flight was my biggest dream. However, once there was also the bad experience of the fall of the jump with the umbrella from the roof. Every day I traveled away in the air in my mind, but it didn't understand how I do. And I had a real thing, a flying machine with just a rotating shaft. There were flapping wings and a vacuum whose power was unlimited. From that time I used to daily my air trips, and in a luxury vehicle that is worth King Solomon. Many years later I understood that the air pressure seems to the surface of the cylinder from the side in which a little the rotation was caused by a leak. It was gradually understood, but at that time I had a blow. The course of real gymnasium was ending that I was caught by a serious illness. Or if you say, many diseases took hold and my condition worsened that doctors left the hoop. This time was the ultimate of reading me just. The public library found books that were previously ignored. I was given me to create his classes and catalogs. One day, I found a few books that were completely different. I may forget my illness. This book of Mark Twain was old writings, and perhaps my miraculous recovery took place. After 25 years, when I met Mr. Kleiman and we became friends, I told him this experience and I was surprised that he laughed. A great man. I had my studies in higher real gymnasium in Cantus Kamstad, Croatia, where I had an aunt. He was a responsive lady and his handben was a colonel that was an old soldier and fought in many battles. I can never forget that 3 years I spent my house. Like wartime is a strict discipline in a fortress. He was home. I was fed like a bird. The food consists of top class. The testy was also very low, 1000% less. My aunt that cuts the ham was thinner like the tissue paper. Whenever the colonel puts some heavy into my plate, he immediately takes and insists meditation is very delicate. I looked very hungry and I traveled like Tantalus. But I was living in a refined and artistic atmosphere that was quite uncommon for that time. Take the place and marsh and malaria never left me. Whether I've eaten as much as possible. Sometimes the river grew so much that the forces of mice in buildings were penetrated. They used to eat everything, to the bundles of Ivan V spicy paprika. But this paste had become a fun for me. I reduced my population in every way, and that's why I found the title of Red Catcher that was not good. After all my course was applied, the problem finished and I got the maturity certificate that made me stand on a new turn of life. My parents in all these years I have to become oppressed. I was afraid of thinking only. I came deep interest in electricity because of my physics professor who was an intelligent man and exproach from his own made operate. One of them I remember was a free rotating bulb coated with tin foil that spins fast as they connect to static machine. I can't expel what I felt of seeing their extras. Every scene had croaked thousands in my mind. About this force more wanted to know. I wanted to do extraditions and research, and with heart happiness I exacted my destiny. When I was preparing to return home, I came a message that Papa wants to send me to the shooting trick. It was a little strange as he was always against such a victim. After a few days I found out that cholera was spread in that area and I went to the gospel of the chance without the merge of parents. The point was out of understanding how many people were about the cause of this disease that every 15-20 in the country it came in the year. He believed that it spreads by air, so he filled smoke and smell in the air. But the people used to drink contaminated water and die from the same. On the same day I came to Gospa, I got to cholera. Although I survived the cysts, but lying on 9 months' beds, barely moved. My energy was over and the second time I reached out close to death. One day, when everyone was wondering that now my end went, the sinners came running in the room. Even today, I remember their yellow face. When he's trying to cheer me up I said maybe I can recover if you read me engineering. He said in serious tone, you'll go to the world's best technical college. At that time, a heavy weight rose from my heart. But if a special drug does not have an effect, then it probably becomes a relief. The drug was made of a bitter sea dal. He brought me back into life. Like Lazarus gave everyone a hobby, Papa insisted that I would do physical outdoor exercise a year. I barely said yes. I spent much time of that year in mountains. The hunter's bag and books ranging between nature was. My body and mind were both strong with this nature. I thought the plan was made and many ideas come, but most of the ideas were just illusions. Vision was clear but the scientific knowledge was low. In an event I gave the idea that the letters and packets are sent through a tube under the sea. in spherical containers that can withstand water pressure. I designed pumping system that forced water to tube. All calculations were correct. Take care of every detail. Just took a little thing lightly. I assumed water speed with mind and that taken the high of speeds, which saw the result of a resulting and was also perfect. Afterwards, when thought about the fluid resistance, the idea is not practical. So I deleted that. It opens for advanced public. I had another idea to create a ring that floats freely and controls the speed of its rotation from the reaction force to allow people to travel at a speed of about 1,000 hours on the mile. That is not possible from the rail. The reader can laugh at this. This plan was hard, I believe, but there was no more crazy as one of New York's famous professors' idea. Those who wanted to pump the air from the tropic area to the temperate zone and forgot that God has maintained a joint system for this work. I had another idea that was even more important and exciting. Powering by rotation of meaning. I noticed that the things that happen on the surface of the meaning sometimes move in the direction of its movement and sometimes in the direction of the daily rotation of the meaning. This leads to a great change in momentum, and use this energy in a simple manner can be done everywhere. But afterwards I understood that I had been trapped in a problem. I was very disappointed. At the same time, Archimedes had happened when they wanted to find a fixed point in the universe. After the vaccination, I sent the Polytechnic school in the grade Styria that my Sina had sucked as she was an old and Foz institute. It was the same moment that I waited for. I started with my study full energy with strong decision of success. From my previous training, average butter was, because of the twitch and the chance that the sin is met. I had learned many language and had done quite a powerful knowledge collection from the library book. For the first time I had a chance to muse my subjects myself, and I was now getting rid of the freehand drawing. I thought I would surprise my parents. So the first year I started working at 3:00 p.m. daily and read at 11:00 p.m. at night. Some of the sand or holidays, the rest of the students took easy, so naturally I went out to the forefront. That year I gave 9 exams and professors said I am above the top. With their compliments and certificates I went home to short break. A big celebration was expecting, but when Papa took lightly to my hard-earned saxes, I felt very bad. That moment eliminated my ambition to almost. But when he went, I found a bundle of letters that the professors wrote to them in which he did not take me from school. I would die because of overwork. After that I put my full focus on physics, mechanics, and maths, and reads in libraries in free time. I had a strong obsession to finish every work that puts me in the problem several times. Once I started reading Voltaire's books and shocked when he found that he wrote about 100 big books. He also used to drink 72 cups of black coffee in the day when he was in small rowing. I had to read the full set, but when I closed the last book I was very relieved and said no longer. My first year's performance impressed some professors, in them one of the Professor Ragnar who taught arithmetic and geometry. The second was the professor position that was the head of the theoretical and experiential physics. And the third were Drs. Alle, who taught integral calculus and were experts in differential equipment. Dr. Alle was the most brilliant teacher I ever heard. He took special interest in my progress and stopped several hours after the lecture and gave me to solve the problem, in which I enjoyed quite a lot. I told them about a flying machine I thought. It was no illusion, was a real event. The solid scientific was based on principles, and my turbine was now possible and will soon come to the world. Professor Ragnar and Paschal were both strange ways. When you try to say anything, no one gets a confusion, and then there is an awkward silence. Professor Paschal was a proper German teacher, very strict and methodical. Their hands and legs were so large, such as the paws of the bear, but all of them did in a perfect manner, absolutely like a lock without any mistake. In the second year of my study, Paris got a grey dynamo from. It had a laminated field magnet of horseshoe shape and a commutator with a wire wound and mixture. It was connected and shown the effects of current. When the professor was running the position machine like a motor, the brushes were probable. Spark was very happening. Then I noticed that maybe the motor can be run with no brushes. But he said it is not possible. And on this topic he gave a lecture. In the end of the lecture he said, Mr. Tesla can do some big work, but it can never work. It would be such as turning into a power that rotates a steady force like gravity. It's like perpetual motion. Impossible idea. But the Institute also goes ahead of knowledge. We have some fine sensors that allow us to realize the truth. When logic and brain force fails, for a short time I had been fed with their authority, but quickly I'm sure I'm right. And then I started this work with complete ration and confidence. I have a DC machine in my mind, imagine and run it, seeing how the flow of the current is changing in the armature. Then I did an alter imagine, explain the beam's process in it. Then I ran them in different ways by thinking the system of motors and generators. This image was absolutely real and touchable for me. Saved time in grades, I put it. Many instances did not work, but got the result. And I felt that it's probably not a sign of the price. In 1880, I was pollinated in Bomia. The according of Papa's wishes to apply your education mall on I made an instant progress. Newly studied the phenomena by separating the commutator from the machine, but the results still did not come. The next year my life views changed. I thought my parents are very much sacrificial because of me, so I deleted that they should reduce the burden. The craze of that time American telephone was reached in Europe and was to install that system in the Budapest, Hungary. It took a perfect chance and a family friend was the hit of this project. I was a nervous breakdown I had been referring earlier. That I felt during that illness was unbelievable. My sight and hearing was already extraordinary. I saw things away when others didn't see anything. In childhood, I saved my neighbor's house from fire several times as I listened to the sound of light sea burns when all were sleeping. In 1899, when I was above 40 and was making experiments in Colorado, I could hear 550 miles neat power thunder. My young assistants just listened to 150 miles. My hearing from them 13 times was more sharp. Yet the hearing power of that time was nothing at the time of the conference when I was in the nervous breakdown. In the Budapest I could hear the ticks of the 3 rooms away. If a fly was sitting on the table, my ear had a loud voice. 2-3 miles away passes a cart blow to my whole body. The whistle of the train came from 20 or 30 miles away, was so strange that the bench or chair that sat down began to vibrate and the pain was so hard to endure. Ground under my feet was a trembling. I had to put the bed on a rubber condition to get a little rest. The crying sounds of the past seemed like a word is speaking. If I do not understand those sounds in different components, I probably get crazy with fear. The sun's rage when it came to my eyes on time. He put the impression of my brain as someone killed. I feel like my skull will break down in pressure while passing under the bridge. In the dark, I had a bat-like sense. Any object away 12 ft. The prerequisition of the forehead suffocated from a cuppy session. My pulse sometimes went up to some beats, sometimes up to 260 and the tissue of the whole body that was the most painful experience. A famous doctor gave me a heavy dose of bromide of potassium daily and said my illness is unique and has no cure. I'm always regretting that time no physiology and psychology's experts weren't justifying me. I was sticking to life, but I think I could never be right. What can be a man who absolutely broken? One day will become so strong and determined. Work continuously for 38 years without break and feel fresh from the body and mind even today. That's all about me. The strong desire to live and the passion to continuate your work and the help of a good friend and athlete showed this miraculous. My health came back and my mind with him turned back. When I started working on my problems again, I began to be an almost regret that the stroll will quickly finish as I had so much energy. When I started this work, he wasn't like a normal decision. For me, it was a secret promosis. Life and death had a question. I know if I failed, I will end. Now I felt I won this battle. Shan was hiding somewhere inside my mind, but I was not able to bring him out yet. One day that will always be alive in my memories. I was walking in the city park with my friend and saying poetry. At that age I remembered full books word by word was one of the Goethe fast was loosening the sun and reminding me of a penny of him he stirs and goes away the day is cut. He runs there and demands new life. Hey, no wing does not raise me from the ground so that I can fly behind him. Just fly. A beautiful dream but he slips. High, with the wings of the mind never gets the wings. As soon as I quoted this powerful lines, an idea came into mind like lightning and the truth was revealed in a second. I made the same diagrams on sand from a stick that I 6 years later shown in front of American Institute of Electrical Engineers. My friend immediately understood them. The image that was in front of me was so sharp and clear as it was made of metal or stone. My motor, look here, I said to him. Now see it reverse. I can't even disassemble my fillings. I was more emotional than when the Pygmalion sees his stack alive. I give them even if I found in free the 1,000 secrets of nature. I had won my own instead of a discovery without any help and bet your life. For some time I put myself in just one job. Imagine matchings and make new Ds. It was a mental state in which I found the most successful life. Ideas were going to come to my mind without stopping and my real stroll was just how to keep them in mind. The machine I thought was really real for me. To every small detail, such as those who have chronic scars. I like to make such an imagine that motors are running continuously, because I found their image and more exiting. When the natural interest becomes irration, the human being grows in large steps towards his goal. Within 2 months I made almost all the motors and systems that are added to my name today. Perhaps it happened that the need for life forced me to stop a little. I went to Budapest as an incorrect report found about the telephone project. And watch the luck. I had to take the work of the draftsman there. Well, I do not want to tell on a salary, but luck was good. Inspector-in-Chief took interest in me and I got the job of calculating, design, and estimates of new installments. When the telephone exchange was started, his journal was given me. The knowledge and experience I found in this work was quite valuable, and I found a full chance of working on my inventions. I made some impressions in the equipment of the central station and also created a telephone repeater or emulsifier that has never been patented nor told the public today, but even today it was the name is worth. Happy with my help, the organizer Mr. Pushes of this project made me a job offer in Paris when he left Budapest's business, and I gained the offer happily. I can never forget how much strong effect Paris put on my brain. I was walking without any direction on the streets for several days. Everything was new and so beautiful that I came to confuse. There were tracks on every side and I could not stay away from them. But the income was over when Mr. Pushka asked me how all is going on. So the last 29 days of the straight return are the most difficult. My life was a little hard in Paris, to say in today's language, like Revolution style. Every morning I went out from Bollywood St. Mars where I lived, and Sen goes a bathing house near river. There I put 27 rounds in water. Then a snail walker reaches the ivory where the company had a factory. There I like a woodcutter at 7:30 p.m. a heavy breakfast and lunch wait. Till then I factory manager hard technical problem for Mr. Charles Batchelor solved it. He was the close friend and assistant of Edison. While I met a few Americans who liked me to see experts in billiards, I told myself, one of them was Mr. D. Canningham, who was the foreman of the mechanical department. He said he would make a stock company. I felt a lot of fun by listening to the idea because I didn't know what had happened. That's how Americans work. Nothing finalized, and next few months I traveled to France and Germany so that power plants can fix the prices. When I came back to Paris, I gave a company administrator Mr. Rao his dynamo impression plan and I got a chance. My work was successful. Directors were happy and gave me a chance to design automatic regulators that they needed a lot. After a while, a big problem came. The wiring in which the lighting plant was planted in Strasbourg's new railway station was wrong, and the walls front of the Emperor William I due to a short circuit on the day of the open ceremony a part burst. German government refused to take the plant and the French company had to face big losses. Because I had a German language and I had a past experience, I've been working to fix all. In the beginning of 1883 I went on this Strauss to the corresponding mission. Some of the incidents were the cities that settled in my mind forever. There was a strange coincidence that many people who later lived in that time in the city. I was the bacteria of greatness in that old city, saying in fun. I didn't feel the other people. Meetings with practical works, letters and officials kept me busy day. But as soon as a little time was found, I started creating a simple motor in a small workshop that was in front of the railway station. I had brought with some material from Paris to similar work, but it took up to the end in the expiration complex. And then I got the installation when I saw that the motor is rotating. He also without any sliding contact or commutator from different faces of the alternating currents, as I thought a year ago. This experience was very good, but the first time I came to meet idea was not equal. One of my new friends, Mr. Smiljan, who had previously lived the city's mayor, I told them already about my inventions and I tried to support them. He supported me heartily and he placed my project in front of many rich people, but for my adjustment no one showed interest. He wanted to help me in every way, and the time of 1st July 1919 reminds me of his help. This money, but there was a lot of specials. In 1870, when Germans had made country and vet, Mr. Smiljan had hidden in his stock ground of St. Estef wine of 1801. He decided that I am the best use of this rare wine and I offered the wine. It was one of the moments that do not forget. He told me that I can quickly go back to Paris and find support there. I wanted the same, but everything was taken due to work and negotiations and the little ones. Sometimes guessed all is. I also want to tell the German discipline and efficiency's fanny example. The bulb of his 16 CP seemed to be in the hallway. I deleted a place and uttered the electrician to wires. After working a while he said that the engineer would have to ask. The engineer made some illustrations, but the finale aggregated that the lamps should be applied a little just 2 inches different placements. Work turned back. Then the engineer was dotted and said that the inspector should tell the avark. Inspector came checked ergo and put the bola lamp back to the same place where I mark originally, but then he was too confused and said the Ober-Inspector has informed Hieronymus. We will now have to wait for the deceased. After a few days the Ober-Inspector was freed and disassembled 2 hours after the debate that the lamps take 2 inches and 4. I thought it was an event, but not he came back and the FNK is so strict that without his approval I could do nothing. Now the preparation of their visit began. From the morning, all the cleaning and polishing took place. I wore gloves. Get all ready done. Fang came with his team and got his formal welcome. 2 hours later he said sadly, go to me and point to the ceiling, put the lamps here. The same express place where I first sage. Every day there was nothing, but I had buzzed that the result should be weather, and finally brought my hard color. All the Israelites had become solved by spring 1884. The plant turned officially, and I went back to Paris with pleasure. An administrator of the company had promised that if I had been successful, I'll get a good payment and the approvals I made in their dynamics. There were 3 administrators. I will speak A, B, and C. I spoke to A. They go to bully a B. He can take the decision of Bala C. C said the same is the virtual decision maker. That's what I repeatedly walked between these 3. Then I understood that my reward was just a dream made in the air. A castle in Spain. I was another big disappointment that I found a fully failure in captivating capital. When Mr. Baller got me let us go so that I can renew the machines of Edison. Then I decided that I'd tried in my luck land of golden promises. But this chance was almost discounted. I booked a lot of properties, sold tickets and place, and when I reached the station, the train was getting out. That moment I found that both my money and tickets have disappeared. What to do now? This was the question. It was time to think about Hercules, but I don't have it. I was attending as well as the train, and the mixed sexes in my mind were walking like the same wave. My dare and a little clever saved me on the last moment, and I climbed to ship for New York, passing through the usual struggles. Just a few of the accessories, my written poems, some of the articles, and a bundle of calculations that were relayed from an unstable integral in my flying machine. During the journey, I sat in the back of the mostly ship, just by yourself without fear, in search of the opportunity to protect someone from drowning. After I came a little practical American sense in me, I got cold on my thinking and surprised my stupidity. Wish I my first impression of America can put in words. In the Arabian tales I read that the genes took people to dream world. With me his upside down. Jenny picked me from a dreamy world and put it into the real world. From where I came the place was beautiful, artistic. Every way was charming and everything was rough and unattractive as the machine. A big policeman was rocking his stick. I like a wooden stroller. I asked him politely. He said with immersed eyes, 6 blocks go straight then left. What is the US? Painful was in shock. I think it's behind a century from Europe. But when I went back in 1889, there were 5 years. So I felt that the US is 100 years ahead of Europe, and my thinking is not changed today. I met with Edison was a memorable moment of my life. I am amazed to see this man that uncovered everything without the proper education. I read many language, literature and art had penetrated, spent in your best time libraries. Take from Prince Pia of Newton. Paul had read everything to Dick's novels, and I thought I've done my life best. But soon I understood that all things were best for me. In a few weeks, I won the trust of Edison. This happened because of an incident. SS Oregon was the fastest monument ship of that time. Both its lighting machines were deteriorated and the ship was delayed as the structure of the ship was later formed. The machines could not be removed. Edison was very disturbed by this problem. In the evening I went to the necessary tools and in the ship, overnight stayed. Dynamos were quite poor. Short circuits and brakes were, but with the help of KR I cured them. At 5:00 p.m. when I was going to shop from the fitment venue, Edison Bachelor and some were coming back. Edison saw me and said it's our Parisian was also attending the night. When I told that I'm coming from the village of Or and I've done both repairs, it's quiet. Nothing went away. But as soon as he went a little away I heard the bachelor is good, and after that day I complete control to handle the work found. My daily routine for about a year ranges from 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the next day. Edison told me, I have been quite hard-working people, but you are the most different. You take the cake. In this period I made standard machines of 24 new types that were of short courses and beans patterns and replaced old machines. The manager told me that I'll find $00 when the work is compacted. But afterwards it was all just a joke. Hearing me deep shock and I got my job resigned from. After that, some people came to me and said he would like to make an arch-light company in my name. I did so. Now I felt that the finalist got the chance to develop the motor. But when I talked about this topic from my new partner, he said, we just need arc lamp. We don't have your allotment current. In 1886 I applied my arc lightning system and was adjoined as factory and city lightning. Now I was free, but I just had a certificate that beautifully designed, but his value was just on paper. After that, the time of struggle came, in a field for which I did not fit. But Everett got in the end, and Tesla became the electric company in April 1887, where I found all lab and work facilities. The motors I created were exactly what I saw in my mind. I did not even try to change the design, just made the image I saw in mind, and the motor always walks like I thought. Starting 1888 took a deal with the Westinghouse company in which this motor's large scales were created, but there were still many problems. My system was based on the low frequency current, and the people at the Westinghouse were using 133 bicycles as they needed some adjustments in the transformation. They didn't want to change their standard systems, so I had to modify the motor to the record to their systems. There was another challenge: to create a motor that moves to the two wires on the firing. It was not easy to do. In the end of 1889, when I did not need me in Pittsburgh, I came back to New York and started working at the Grand Street Lab done. There I started designing high-frequency machines. The problems of this field were absolutely new and different types, and I had to face quite differently. I rejected the inductor type as I was afraid that he would not give the perfect sine wave, which was very essential for resistance. If I have not taken this risk, it is very hard. There was another problem of high-frequency alternator. This speed was not present. This was due to its use. Demo in front of American Institute of Electrical Engineers. Tuning was spoiled several times in it, and then it had to set again. Then I didn't know that there could be a way to make the machine speed so stable that the full load or no load also doesn't matter much of a small reciprocating variant. And also I thought I should make a simple device, produce electric oscillations. Lord Kelvin in 1856 gave the theory of condenser discharge, but no one did his practical use. I saw the positivity in it, and I started making the induction apparatus on this principle. My progress was so fast that in his lecture in 1891 I showed a coil that could spark up to 5 inches. On that day I cleared the engineers that this new method has a flow spark gap, has energy loss. Research later showed that no medium use, air, hydrogen, mercury vapor, oil, or electrons stream efficiency sim. It was the same as a law. As mechanical energy convulsions are handled, we drop the weight straight down or take it down by another way. Amount of work occurs. The good thing was that it was not a drawback fail. 85% of efficiency can be found if the circuits are matched correctly. Since I had made an account of my invention, it started to happen everywhere and brought a revolution in many industries. But the future is even bigger. In 1900, when I discharged up to 100 feet and sent the current to the globe around, then I got into my Grand Street Lab. He missed the first small spark, and I got the same excitation field that rotating magnetic field discovered. The time was taken. When I remember my old life, I understand how little things change our luck. One of my youth can be a good example. A cold day I climbed a hill with some boys. The ice was deep enough and the hot accessories were running air, which was perfect for this work. We were taking me to roll downwards by making snow shells that were going to simmer more ice on the way, and we were trying to do all better than each other. Suddenly went away more than a hemisphere, and the ice was so big as there is a house and loudly fell under the valley that was trembling to the ground. I stayed there, not to understand what happened. For several weeks, the storm of the ice was in front of my eyes, and I thought how much was so big. Since then, I felt very interesting to read the big impact of small accommodations. And when a few years later I started exercising mechanical and electrical resistance, I was very excited from the beginning. Probably if there is a deeper effect at the time so I don't fall behind the little lightning spark that I saw with my coil and never reach my biggest search, which I am now telling for the first time. Lion Hunters has often asked me what is my most precious discovery. That's what you see from. There are a lot of technical people who are in their work but not much practical. He said that in addition to the induction motor I didn't give the world a special thing. This is a big wrong thinking. New thinking should not break from the ridge. My alternating power transmission system came at a time when people were craving for such accommodations, and although there was considerable opposition and had to take different interests together. But it's not too late to come to business. Now keep it with my turbine. It seems that the simple and beautiful inventions that have many features of an ideal motor, immediately undoped, and even if some condiments occur, but the effect of rotting field was not a waste to old machines, but their value was increasing. This system knew it was also perfect for work and also improved old. But my turbine is a different level change. This is a new concept that has a signal to completely remove the old prime movers above which billions of dollars have taken. There will be a progress slow in such a synchronization, and the biggest obstruction is the negative thinking sitting in the mind of the experts who are made of an organized protest. Just a few days ago I had a disappointing experience when I met my old friend and assistant Charles F. Scott, who now there are professors of electrical engineering in prison. I found him a long time later and was happy that he found a meeting in his office. In things we came to the turbine and I became quite a passionate. Scott, I said, my turbine will scrape all the heat ingestion of the world by losing in the dream of the future. Scott touched his little bit and thought a little bit like doing something in mind. He will make a big scrap pile, he said, and went without saying anything else. My second inventions were just a few new steps in some different direction. These I just heard the voice inside me to improve the old things. Think about, no need. The magnifying transmitter was the result of my many years of work. the real motive of which was to find the solution of some of the products that were not just industry but for the whole humanity. In November 1890 I had done a lab experiment in November 1890 that was one of the most different and threatened moments of the history of science. I am gonna understand the middle of high-frequency currents. It was sure that in a form so strong electric field can be made to water vacuum tube with no electrodes. To test this theory, I became a transformer and had a great idea of the first test. At that time it was difficult to understand how many of the importance it was strange phenomena. We crave for new experience, but sooner they become, etc. The miracles of tomorrow become common for today. When my tubes were first exposed to people were surprised to see them, which was difficult to make a statement. Invites me from every corner of the world. A lot of awards have received and many of the betting offers, but I refused all. In 1892, demands went so much that I had to go to London, where I gave a lecture in front of Institution of Electrical Engineers. My plan was to run Paris immediately after the lecture. There was also an invitation, but Sir James Daver forces me to be invincible in front of the Royal Institution. I was strong in my decisions. On that great Scotsman defeated ahead of the tremendous arguments. He said I laid on a chair and gave a tremendous brown ring of a half a glass filled that shined from every angle and be nectar-like in taste. Now she said you're sitting on the chair of the family and enjoying the same atrophy that used to drink the family. Both things had a different level of experience. The next evening I gave a demonstration in front of the Royal Institution and the Lord Railing said a few words from the audience that became a new beginning for me. I ran from London, then from Paris too, so that people who were giving me favorites can get away from them, and went back to their home where I have very painful disease and struggle face. I deleted when I turned out to work again in the US now. I never felt like I had any sort of discovery. On the Lord Railing that I always considered an ideal scientist. He said that there's this quality inside me, and if it was true I thought I should pay attention to a big idea. One day I tried to hide a place to avoid a storm when I was walking in the mountains. The sky was filled with heady clouds, but the rain came a while. Then suddenly the rain of the emphasis began after a single glow in a few seconds. I found the point of thinking. It was clear that both things were lightning and rain connected to each other, as causes and results. After a little thinking I thought that the electrical energy that seems to fall rain is significantly lower and the power work is just like a sensitive trigger. Thinking that I felt can be done something bigger here. If we were able to create an electric field which is the level of the nature ways to live all the world, and life can be changed. The sun picks up the seawater and the air takes it away. Where he lives in a delicate balance. If we want to balance when and where you can drop the water of the spoiler, we can water the dry areas, create new lakes and rivers, and get unlimited energy. This is the most efficient way to bring the power of the sun into human work. All that we had to do was to get the electric forces that are in nature. It looks quite impossible was, but I thought that the try should, and as soon as the US went back to the summer of 1892, I started working. This work was even more interesting for me as the same system needed to transmit energy without wire. The best ridge was found in the next year spring when I took a tension with my conical coil up to about 10 lakh volts. It's not a good thing to do today, but it's a big thing. My laboratory fires in 1895 until work steady grows, whose J. T.C. Martin had done in the April edition of Century magazine. This fire brought me a lot of work, and it took a lot of time planning and relabs of that year. But as soon as the conditions were cured, I looked back to work. I knew much larger size can get even more voltage than machine. It can also be rounded out of the small and compact machine from the right design. That was an instinct inside me. When I tested with the secondary coil of my patented flat spiral shape, I shocked that no streamer is coming out was. Not too late, and I understood that it was caused by the position of the turns of the coil and the effect on each other. Taking advantage of this expression, I used a high-tension wire that had large diameter turns and had considerable gaps so that the capacities remain low and no longer charge is deposited. This design gives me a pressure of up to 40 lakh volts, which was the almost limit of my New Houston Street lab, as the discharges were going up to about 16 feet. A photo of this transmitter electrical of November 1898 the review was printed in. I needed the open space when I completed the preparation for creating a wireless plant in the spring of 1899. So I went to Colorado and lived more than a year there. I made new approvals there. To generate any level of current, it becomes possible. Those who are interested can read in the article with the problem of incrying human energy about my experiments, which was left in the Century magazine of June 1900, which I have already been referring. Electrical Experiencer magazine. I said that I would write exactly the topic so that the young readers of magazine could get the construction and work proper idea of my magnifying transmitter. So first of all, This is a resonant transformer that the secondary part is charged from a high potential, and its design is based on the surfaces that are quite large in radius, curved shapes, and are at the right distance from each other, thereby reducing the electric surface density everywhere. This means that the conductor does not leak even if open. This transformer works on any frequency whether it's second or thousands on some bicycles. We can make currents with either too much volume, small currents of very high voltage with moderate pressure, or with very high voltage, the maximum voltage that will only dip the curve of the surface in its area. From my old experience, I think that up to 10 core volts are relaxed. Antenna can also get thousands of ampere currents. So much performance requires small plant. The terminal of just 90 feet diameter is quite as per theory, so make the voltage for, and if the antenna current should be 2000 to 4000 amperes, the terminal of the only 30 feet diameter is considerable. It is a wireless transmitter in which the HC wave radiation is so low that there is no sense in the conference of total energy. The lamping factor is very small in this condition, and the levitated capacities have a very high charge store. Such circuits can be exited from any type of impulse, even from even low frequency, and its alter like sinusoidal and continuous offers auspices. If you look at the most natural definition, this is a resonant transformer that keeps the accurately proposition in accordance with the electrical properties of the globe. In addition to all these qualities, this design makes it very efficient and effective in wireless energy transmission. Distance has no effect. The intensity of transmission is not low. It is possible to move away from the plant as much as the action is strong. According to a proprietary mathematical law, this invention, a part of my world system, I started commercializing by coming back to New York in 1900. My project's main goals were written clearly in a technical statement of that time, from which I quote something. The world system is a combination of several original discoveries that I did during my research and experience. This made it possible to send any type of signal, messages, or data instantly and in an express manner in any corner of the world, at the same time without any equipment. The equistating telegraph, telephone, and signal movements can be added to themselves as a telephone user can talk to any user in any corner of the world. A small and cheaper receiver that is smaller than a watch can give him a chance to listen to any other place in the ground or seaside anywhere. It's just the exams to show what it can do with a large psychotropic progress. It eliminates the distance and makes the sense a perfect natural conductor that can be used for every work, replacing the wire. This is a big ridge that any device that operates from one or more wire, it can easily be operated from any corner of the world without any wire, unless the size of the globe is limited. In this way, not only new commercial areas are opened, but old areas are significantly expanded. The world system is based on some instant events and discoveries. First, Tesla transformer. This machine is the big thing in making electric vibrations, as the gun was in powder war. It created currents that can never become normal methods, and more than 100 feet long chingers have also been released. Second, magnifying transmitter. This is the best invention of Tesla, a special transformer that excites meaning as telescope space comes in view. Tesla from this tremendous machine made more powerful electric movement than lightning and sent so much current in the entire sense of dizziness, which was considerable, to burn more than 200 bulbs. The third, Tesla wireless system. This system has many new impressions and is the only way to deliver energy without wire. A built in Colorado, the test and measurement of the strong experimental station found that the merged power can be sent to the cross of the entire globe with just a little energy loss. Fourth, art of independentization. This is quite advanced by the level of my invention, normal tuning, as the refined language and broken flew words difference. This makes the signal or message totally secret and exclusive. Do not interfere and not interfere. Every signal is similar to a unique identity and simultaneously working without a lot of stees or devices can. Fifth, the terrestrial stationary waves. In easy terms, it means that the meaning reacts on the electric vibrations of a simple pitch. Like tuning makes the difference on some spatial sound waves. These special vibrations excite the meaning and can be very common in commercial and other areas. The first world system power plant can be ready in just 9 months. This can lead to an electric activity of up to 10 million horsepower without spending much. This can be done through this plant. All telegraphs of the world, adding offices to mutual, creating a secret and non-interferable government telegraph service connecting the telephone offices of the whole globe with the connection of news, global distribution telephone, or through press of the telegraph, to create an exclusive world system for private use, connecting and operating all stock tickers in the world, preparing the global distribution system of music, registering time around the world from affordable watches that are accompanied by astronomical questions and don't ask for at all, typed or world transmission of hand-retained letters, checks, characters, creating a global marine service that allows the ships to perform perfectly without compass, Use compact location, time, and speed. Prevent collisions and disasters. Starting the world printing system on both land and sea. Global reproduction of photos, drawings, or records. I also wanted to give a demonstration on the small scale of wireless power transmission that gives a strong proof even after being shortened. In addition, I've also given hint about some of my discoveries that the future will be revived. A plant was built on Long Island with 187 feet high tower and a gold terminal of 68 feet diameter on its top. This size was perfect for transmitting any level of energy. The system of just 200 to 300 kW was installed in the starting, but my plan was to use the several horsepower later. This transmitter embeds a special type of wave complex, and I also created a unique way of telephonic control of energy. The tower was broken 2 years ago, but my work is still running and creating a new tower with some features and better. I would like to say that those who are saying that the tower governance has trumpeted is wrong. Time was war. So, some people may have been condensed. For those who don't know what I want to tell that the documents that gave me an honor of the American citizenship 30 years ago are handled in safe. And my awards, degrees, gold medals and the rest of the honors are closed in the old trunks. If the government of the truth is tornado, I get back the money I had to make the tower. But the tower that was in the interest of the unitary governance was saved because a lot of importance could work from this tower. Find a submarine location in any corner of the world. My plants, my services, and all my events have always been available for the officials of government. I have been working with some of my inventions since I started a war in Europe, which is relayed from aerial navigation, ship propulsion, and wireless transmission, which is the countries for is very important. Those who really know that my ideas have changed the US industries, and I don't think someone else would have been alive as I am. Specialty is the use of their events in the war. I didn't say anything before in public on this topic because when all the world is in trouble, it doesn't seem to be okay. I also want to say because some of the rumors have come to my ear that Mr. J. Pierpont Morgan had not taken interest to me business, but the same big he helped me with heart as he had many more new people. He played all what he promised, and it would be wrong to expect him more. He understood the value of my work and showed me a complete trust in me that I would be able to take my goal. I don't want to give joy to those little thinked and burning people that they stopped my hard work. For me, this is nothing more than any dirty disease germs. My project lost due to the loss of nature. The world was not ready for him. From time to time, but the same nature's louses at last, the project will be able to create a bigger access. No one of the topics I've worked on was forced to concatenate my mind so much as this system did, whose base was magnifying transmitter. The strength and energy I put in the discoveries of the rotating field in my young age was even more intent than it was. He was the first thing to do, but he didn't think of fatigue and sharp focus, which was supposed to solve the tricky problem of wireless. That time my body physically was quite strong, but still my nerves turned up and I was completely challops. While long and tough was going to end work, if the nature did not give me a safety system, I would travel much more and maybe my life is too early. This system is with time and bettered, and when my body is tired at all, it becomes automatically active. I'm safe from overwork until it works. Those who become a denier for the rest of the inventors, and so I don't need vaccination that rest people is required. Just do what some black people say when I finish at all. White people take tension. Let us fall asleep. The body gradually accumulates a toxic thing, and then I go into a deep sleep for half an hour. When you wake up, it's a matter of years ago that something happened before sleep. If you try to continuate the same thinking back, it seems like vomiting in the brain. Then naturally I feel in another work, and surprise is how the mind looks so fresh, guys. Those who weren't having the first solvents are now very easily swelled. A few weeks or months later, the same craze of the event is returned and every default quarantine is found without much effort. In this context, I want to share a strange experience that can be interesting for students of psychology. I had croaked a smudged effect from my grounded transmitter and was trying to understand its real piling specialty that goes through current meaning in his context. This work looked like impossible, but I didn't get any results if I worked without a year. This deep research penetrated so much into my life that I forgot my health. After all, when the body was broken, nature put me into a sleep that was life-saving. When I came to the sense, I was shocked that I am not able to image the scenes of my whole life. Just a childhood thing was looking for the first memories that came first in my thinking. And the strange thing was that it was all scenes very much clearer and cursed were seen, and I found a little Sukuan. I thought of the same scenes before bedtime at night, and slowly started coming back to my old life. My mother's image was at the center every time, and then I began to revise them. It was so strangled that I had disassembled that all work would go to meet him. But it was difficult to go away from the lab and went out a few months. During this time, I brought back the memories of my whole life. Recall everything from the spring of 1892 done. After that, a scene was cleared in the mind in which I was in Paris's Hotel de la Paix. A strange sleep that caused a lot of stress on brain. Think of how much pain would happen when I remembered that the same moment I found a telegram in which my mother was dying. I remember I had long frozen up to home for no break, and how my mother was in a pen for a few weeks and then settled on. The most trendy thing was that my normal memory was weak at that time. I fully in the research subject was alert. Every small detail of my experience, every expression I remembered. I've in complex maths remembered to formula. I'm sure the nature has a law of vibration. The real reward is always as hard as it is done. That's why I think the magnifying transmitter of all my inventions will prove to be the most important and valuable for future generations. I'm not saying that it will bring a large commercial or industrial change, but it will have the advantages of the humanity. He does more matter. Just things with utility never get overwhelmed in front of the real benefit of civilization. Today, we are faced with a large price that can't be solved by just completing the material needles. Whether more, only material growth can be done by deniers like poverty and suffering. If we release the energy of the atoms or start making affordable and unlimited power everywhere in another way, this achievement can become a disaster for mankind instead of a blessing in which battle and anarchy may be spread and the force may come to the end. The biggest advantage is when a technical progress moves towards unity and harmony, and my wireless transmitter is exactly the same. It's through human voices, and images can reach everywhere, and the factories can get energy from waterfall to thousands of miles away. Aerial machines can move without dizziness of the whole sense, and the rivers from the sun's energy can be made or green dry areas. When it is for telegraphs, telephones, and similar use, it will automatically remove static and interferences that limit the use of wireless today. It's a perfect time to speak a little on this topic. In the past few years, many people claim that they have taken this static problem solution. I have carefully studied all those setups and tested a lot of them before being public. All of them had a result of failure. A recent official statement of US Navy has probably found some media editors explaining what the real value of these claims is. Most of the attempts are based on the things that are so wrong that I just laugh when I discover. Now, a few times before, a new discovery had an immunity with a large noisy, but the results came out. Coda Mountains came out. I've missed an old scene when I've been providing high-frequency currents. That time Steve Brody had jumped from the Brooklyn Bridge. Afterwards, people made this feed rag, but for the first time the news came across New York shock. I was quite emotional and talked about the broad. I thought something cooled, and I went to a popular bar in the city. Once there was a tremendous 12% drink that only gets in Europe's poor and ruined orals today. There was quite a crowd. There were no more people, and there was a point in which I had a chance to kill a tremendous joke. I uttered casualty. This is what I quoted when I jumped from the bridge. I thought Shear's palm was to say that I thought Shear I am friends. In a second healed, screaming the Dajan people. This is Bruddy. I threw and participated on a quarter counter, but the crowd was behind me, screaming Rugo Steve. Perhaps people misunderstand, and many people began to try to stop me. When I ran on my safe zone, I went to my lab to cut corners and hide from fire escape, where I took my coat, show yourself as blacksmith, and started the forge. But there was no need to do so much. I was saved from those. Many years at night, when small troubles become monster, I thought to rebound on the bed. What happens to me if the crowd catches me and they know that I am not this too Brody? Now, an engineer told a new session of static problem in front of a technical group some time ago that was based on the law of and nature so far. His claim was so careless as I ever had, when he said static signals spread down above, while the signals of the transmitter move along the ground. If it is true that a condenser, such as the meaning that is surrounded by the air around it, can be charged and discharged exactly what is written in the basic books of physics, it is also misrepresented in the submission of Franklin, as the fact was clear that the electricity with atmosphere and the electricity with the machine is the same. The direct thing is both nature and man-made. Signals mean and air through travel as soon as possible. Both horizontal and vertical direction in the electromotive forces criminate. Interference cannot be removed from such a method, as some people do. Prema, the fact that the voltage rises from a rate of 50 volts in almost every foot when the weight rises in the air. This can cause pressure differentiation of up to 20,000 or 400 volts in the middle of the antenna and below. Charge atmosphere always moves and gives the conductor current, but it doesn't have a flow smoothie, but just like a jump that gives a grinding noise in the phone receiver. The more the antenna will be up and the more wire area will cover this effect, the more. This effect is just local. It does not have to take more than the main price. In 1900, when I was perfecting my wireless system, in a setup I used 4 antennas. All of these were tuned to the same frequency and were added together so that the effects of the signals that come from any direction are amplifying. When I had to look at the source of the signal, diagonally took the opposite antony to the drinker, connects them to the series with the primary coil that caused the detector circuit activation. In the phone, in the first case, sound loud came. The sound stops in the second case as was expected, because both the anticancers make each other anthrote, but the real static signal was still visible in both cases. So I have to create base specials on different principles. When the receiver is connected to two separate points of the ground, as I had already rested, this major problem solved gets from the charged air. The focus of interference is also reduced in the new structures that are now formed as the circuit direction best. It was a simple thing, but some simple-minded was like a discovery for wireless people. Their experience was just up to the machines that could be made from one. He killed him without having to sell the skin of the bear. If it is true that static signals work so random, it's easy to receive signals without the aerials. But the wire inserted inside the ground in the aquatic, which should be absolutely safe as per these stinks. He is also aware of some unwanted signals. One wire which is laid vertically in the air. If you talk about once-ly, a little impression is definitely not caused by a special method or device. It was just because people left a large structure that was not good for transmitting and was absolutely useless for receiving. Their place was used a better type receiver. As I said in an article earlier, if the static problem is to remove the permanently, the complete system will change as soon as it is. When it comes to technology, it's just at the very beginning and many people are not able to understand the positives of the nature of the experts. It's very bad if you just make the control of the government. A few weeks ago, Secretary Daniels had given this proposal, and perhaps he has kept his point in front of Senate and House of Representatives. But the experience in every place is clear that the best results are met only if there is a healthy commercial condition. But some in the case of wireless technology, there are special reasons why this field should be found to be full freedom. First of all, the positives that are in the future of this invention are more important than any other discovery to improve human life. Yet it should be understood that this Amazoning technology is completely developed, and it is more correct than Americans say, phone, bulb, or airplane. People from smart press agents and stock markets have spread so much that even magazines like Ivan Scientific American gave its main credit to a foreign country. Germs gave Hertz waves, and Russian, English, French, and Italian experts used them for signaling immediately. It was an obvious application and worked with the old classical induction coil that was just another kind of heliograph. The range of this system was small. The results were also of low value, and Hertz wave could be from better communication sound wave. I was supporting since 1891, and all this trials started after 3 years when the basic principles of the wireless system, clearly disassembled in the US, were made. There is no sign of the Hertzian method in today's time. We worked exactly in the auspicious direction, and the one who has been savior till date is the result of the mind and hard work of the people in this country. The basic patents have been over and now have the open opportunity for everyone. The Secretary's main order is based on interference. He says that the signals sent from a strong station could be caught in every village of the world, as it had been printed in New York Herald on July 29. And when it's veiled in my experiments of fact 1900, it would be quite useless to put restricts in the US. I want to tell a recent incident to explain this. A strange man came to meet me whose goal was to help me to become the world transmitters in a distant country. He said, "We don't have money, but there are real carriers across solid gold, and we will give you good rewards." I said that before I want to see what happens to my inventions in the US, and that the thing ended up. I think some dark forces are working, and go-ahead continuous communication will be difficult to maintain. It has the same condition. The system that is safe from the interception is ready. Just put it into the use. Even today, the world is living in a large war effect and may be utilizing the magnifying transmitter as a wastage that came to work both attack and defense. Meet with specialty tele-automatics. This invention is the result of the observances that I started from childhood and kept the whole life continue. When the first ridges were punished, electrical rev, it was written in the editorial that it will form a very powerful tool of human progress and civilization. That's not the time when it's true. In 1898 and 1900 I had offered this invention government and could be able to exact. If I like those who want something from Alexander, then go to his shepherd. At that time I thought that this technology will eliminate the war as it was such a destructive and remove the human contact in combat. But now, while I still trust the power of it, my thinking has changed since the war cannot be stopped until the physical cost of the war is removed. And he is the real cost. It's too big to planet where we live. Only then the permanent grinding is possible, when the distance is eliminated from every angle, as sending information, transport of people and goods, and transmission of energy. Today we need the most to come closer to each other and have a better understanding between all the people and community in the world, as well as to remove the devotions that rejuvenate the world in the name of nations' ego and pride. barbarism and takes into battle. Any league or parliamentary law can never stop such a destruction. It's just new ways that the weak people come into control of strong people. I have been saying this 14 years ago, when the idea was given to create a group of large governments, just as a holy alliance that Latte Andrew Carnegie had wrested. Carnegie can be considered as the true father of this idea, because he had given the most oblique and push to it. First of the attendees of the president considered that some vulnerable natives can get a little benefit from such a pact. The real goal of bringing this peace on can't be intriguing. The real grinding will only come when the proper knowledge will be in the world and the races will mix in themselves. And now we are far from that perfect time. I am looking for today's world after the big strangle we've seen. I'm sure that the best future of humanity will be only when the United States remained on their old trades and stayed away from any intergling alliance. If you are looking for a job, then you will have to look at it. This country is far from the place where the conference is going to be. There is no opportunity to get an area. The resource is very high. The population is also strong and the spirit of freedom and justice is filled in. This country is in a unique and special position due to this. It can use independently to its strength and moral power. In a biography story, I took part in a group without the benefit of all, and in a biography story printed in an effective electrical expert, for all benefit. It was said that a problem was referring to which I had to continually exercise imagery and self-observation. Earlier this mental activity was automatic in the pressure of the disease and the pen, but slowly it became my second nature. In the finale, I realized that I'm just a machine with no free will. Everything that I do is just the result of the effects of the environment. Our body is so complex. We do so much in different movements and signals that our sense responses they are so lazy that it is difficult for a man to understand it. But this mechanic theory of life seems to be the most convincing for a trend-sightist. The Descartes who had understood and explained to the extent 300 years ago. But many of the components of the human body were unknown in that deposit. The nature of the specialty light and the structure of the eye and its work did not know all the benefits. In recent years, science has brought these topics so far that there was no place to doubt. Several books have been written on this issue. It has a best and powerful supporter Felix Ladentic, who is the first poster assistant. Professor Jack Loyam has carried out imaging experiences on light effect, in which they have shown clearly how much control is on light's lower organisms. His latest book, Forced Movements, is like a revolution, but where scientists examine this theory like a normal theory. For me, this is a truth that I sniff every hour from my every act and the dot. Whether it works every time he's physical or mental, I always have the awareness of the external signal that pushes me into that direction. Just sometimes when I'm in an extreme concentration, I'm sure to understand where the original impulse I comes from. Many people never know what is happening around them and inside them, and because of this, many people are prone to illness and die quickly. The common things of the day also make them look strange and understandable. No sudden sadness feels and thinks why it is it? While the truth is that a cloud has stopped the sun. A photo or image of a friend appears. It seems to be something special, but in fact a while ago he saw that friend on the road or his photo is seen somewhere. The hours are upset if one loses his collar button. Golly gives him not to remember what he did and where the button was placed. Less observances or a kind of ignorance, and this causes strange beliefs and useless ideas spread in the world. Every 10 just a man who doesn't believe in ideas like telepathy, horse talks, or contacts from dead people. The rest of the people are willing to listen to the things of someone who knows or unconsciously. To understand this, I share a fun instance that shows the depth of this thinking even between clear-minded Americans. A short day before the war, an egg exhibition of my turbine was taken into this city, which was quite in the discussion technical papers. I felt that now a race in manufacturing companies would start my invention to carry. I had a look at the man of specialty in Detroit that had a different magic to earn money. I was so shy that she would come that I had already spoken my secretary and assistants, and really came to my office a few engineers from the Ford Motor Company a day morning, and he said she would like to disassemble an inventory project. I've said to my people with joy I had already spoken, and one of them said, "You're wondering, Mr. Tesla is exactly what you say." As soon as possible I immediately started the compliment of my turbine, but one of them spoke in the middle. "We know all about it, but we have come from another work. We have created a psychological society to study the psychic phenomena, and we want you to join us too." Perhaps those engineers never knew how close I came to remove them from office immediately. Since I had said some of the world's greatest statistics that my brain is unusual, I thought my whole lot to solve the big problem. How much do I want? There is no need to do this. For many years I tried to understand death's mistress and weighing every spiritual sign. But just once in my life came a moment that I felt supernatural for a while. It's a matter of time when my mother had a death. I was exhausted by pens and waking stress, and a night I moved to a building 2 blocks away from our home. I had had a helpless and wondering if my mother died in my non-spot, she would definitely give me a signal. 2-3 months first I was in London with my friend Sir William Crookes where we were talking on spiritism. At that time, I was in the whole effect of these littles. I don't pay attention to someone else, but his words were impact on me. Because I had done an electrical career in student life by reading the work on their radiant matter, I was thinking that everything is perfect now. To see a sign of a bed as my mother was expert women in a genius and introduce. Every night my brain's fiber was weighing that signal. Nothing happened. I felt like sleep or fainting around the morning, and I saw a cloud that had beautiful figures like angel. One of them looked at me with a loving eye and gradually his face became the face of my mother. The image was floated in the room and then disappeared. I got up from a song with a very sweet voice. That moment took me a feeling that cannot be expelled in words that my mother is still dead, and it was true. I didn't understand the truth that I had already found. Sir William Crookes wrote a letter in this state when my health was too weak. When a little bit was okay, I found the external reason of this arranged scene were a very ton, and I found a lot of relief after the last several months of useless efforts when I found the answer. I saw a painting of a famous artist showing a season in the form of a group of clouds and angs, as it is really floating in the air. The image I was so deep that it was stuck in my mind. In my dream, the same scene came, just everything other than my mother's face was. The music I heard came from the nearby church. Easter morning's early mass was the song of time choir, and in this way everything became perfectly expelling with psychotropic facts. It's all time ago, and I've never found any reason to change my opinion on psychic or spiritic things so far today. I think the billy of all these things is just a natural relapse of intellectual growth. Reliability dogma does not exact people in old picing, but every human being holds faith on a noble power. Everyone needs an ideal to control his life and feel grinding. Now that ideal can be of anything, releasing, art, science, or anything else. As long as it reduces materialism from the inside of the human being, it is necessary to have a common thinking in all for a healthy life of humility. I never got any proof of what psychologists and spiritists say, but I fully understood the automatic nature of life, not just looking at people's daily acts, but also by some big patterns. This is a discovery that I think human society is very important, and I will mention a little. I came to the first idea of this strange truth when I was very young now, but for many years I was looking for just coincidence. As soon as I was a victim of an unfair behavior of someone else, I had a different understanding of what I had to do when I myself or any of my close men or a cows. I don't have the express word to disassemble this pen, so I gave it name Cosmic Pen, and every time it happened that they had beaten it there was something bad with them always. I told some of my friends once it was repetitive, and they saw the fact that I slowly shaped in a little and I could speak like this in the simple words. Our body is a kind of structure and all have some external effects. That's why we do all sorts of resonance, and that's why we have social skills and law spaces. We are all a kind of machine that controls from the forces of the surrounding environment. Like water floated cork Idhar Rudhar moves. We also move, but we mistakenly think that it's all happening from our own free will. Whatever we do is to walk, think, react, and it takes an independent, but all of us are connected with each other in visible manner. As long as the body of a human being is okay, he resonates the signals of the environment correctly. But as there are any disturbances in its systems, the nature power of the survey becomes a vacant. Everyone understands that if one does not hear, if you don't see or don't work properly, then the keys to stay alive are reduced. But it's also equally true for brain. If there is some fat in brain, the person loses his survey instinct and goes toward his ruin. The human being is sensitive, whose system is strong and perfectly tuned, reactively reacts every environmental change. And there is a mechanical sense in it, which helps him to avoid the deniers that do not appear directory. When such a person meets such a person, the system of which is exactly messed up makes it active and it sucks the cosmic pen. It has been evidenced several times, and I want to say to the student of natural science to pay attention to this topic. I'm confident that if we all team up with systematic effort, you can get precious resumes for the world. I had come a lot earlier to make an automaton to prove my theory. But I started in actual work 1893 when I started my wireless experience. Next 2 or 3 years I created several automatic machines that could be remotely controlled, and I showed people in my lab. In 1896 I designed a compact machine that could work a lot, but my work was fully compliant when all was ready till the end of 1897. Photo and detail of this machine I was given in the article with June 1900 of Century magazine, and some of that time had covered it. There was a shock-like reaction in people when I showed it first time, and starting 1898, any other more strong reaction than invention came to this. In November 1898 I found the basic patent on this new art, but only when the patent office's examiner-in-chief New York came and saw the machine's demo itself. As I did the claim, it seemed unbelievable to hear. I remember when I went to Washington, and a government officer had this event offering to laugh when I told what I made. At that time, no such machine could really become. I regret that I have control system on saying my loss in that patent showed through a single circuit in a new type of detacher, because I hadn't taken the protection of my visualization method. But in real life, us were controlled by a combination of multiple circuits and there was no chance of interference. Mostly, I used to use in the form of receiving circuits loop. Condensers were engaged, because the discharges of my high-tension transmitter were ionizing the air, and small aerials could also draw electricity for a long time from the surrounding air. For an exam I saw if 12 inches there is a diameter bulb that is in high vacuum and has just a terminal with a small wire, the bulb can give about 1,000 flashes. Unless the charge of the air of the lab is eliminated, the receiver with the loop did not have the effect from this type of distributes. And the interesting thing is that nowadays people are beginning to use the same loop design. Actually, this loop collects less energy in the fabrication of aerials or long grounded wire, but many natural defects of the present wireless devices are removed. When I give a demo of my invention, I also ask the question of the visitor. No matter how complex, an automaton will answer them through the sign. That time people knew it magic, but the system was actually simple. The answer I only gave via the device. At the same time, another large-tail automatic boat was created whose photo is given in this issue of this electrical equipment. This boat was controlled by loops that were engaged inside the boat with multiple turners. The boat was fully waterproof and could also go underwater. The same system was used in the first boat. Just some special features were added like bulbs that show that the machine is working correctly. It was automata that was controlled inside the operator's eye range. It was the starting and a little row version of tail automatics art that I had done the imaging. The next step was to make these systems so strong that it can work out even outside the eye range and operate from the control center very far. I believe that such systems should be utilized instead of guns for the war. Today, people begin to understand the same. If I have some casualties of newspaper, let's justify the accountants that tell that there are a few big incubations, but in fact there is no new thing in them. This work is possible in a slightly indirect way from today's Astring wireless system. As an aeroplane latch, take it to a general route and perform any operations away. Whether it's not a lot of 100 miles away, such a machine can be controlled in a mechanical way to many different vests, and I think it will surely show some usefulness in the war. But there's no such effect technology as my best knowledge today. It is not the work that can be done. I have worked for years on this topic and have devised ways through which all of this can easily become possible. I thought of flying machines idea when I was a student at college. His base idea was right, but there was no powerful engine that could drive the machine. In a few years, I have saved this problem, and now I'm planning flying machines without wings will be of aulers, propellers, or any external part. This machine will move from very high speed and it can become a strong regeneration for peace in the future. The machine that is just raised from the force of the reaction and can be run by mechanical or wireless control. The system of the correct type will be possible to send a missile to the air that the compact will go to the place where the target is given, whether it is thousands of miles away. But we are not here. Tail automata will also be created which will work like in them think and come to a great solution. In 1898, I had found a large manufacturing company that the automobile is made without any control, works that have an abilities like decision making. But at that time they felt the idea impossible and did not have any action. The world's best minds in today's time are wondering how to avoid another world war. The war is just over in the thirst. Her timing and main reasons I correctly in Sun newspaper of 20 December 1914 predicted. The league that is proposing is not a condition, but it can be reversed and bad-ridged by many experts. The worst thought that the thinking of the punishment was used while disassembled. A few years later, there may be a Smiljan where there will be no battles, army shapes, or guns. Whatever the degeneratives that are caused will not be limited to the destruction. No matter how far from any city enemy can be destroyed and no power in the world will stop him. If we have this great future, if you want to avoid disaster and prevent your world from becoming anarch, we should start the flying machines and the development of wireless energy transmission with full speed without having to waste even a second. With the entire power and resources of nation, with this book completely eliminates. We will then find you with another book in a new episode. Thank you.